In a recent interview with EA's EVP of Strategic Growth, Matt Bilbey, he said, 25 years at EA and I still struggle with the external perception that we're just a bunch of bad guys. Unfortunately for Bilbey, I won't be helping that perception in this video. EA is known as the evil corporation of the gaming industry. They are infamous for buying out companies and running them into the ground with greed and unachievable goals. This can be seen with Pandemic Studios, which ran from 1998 to 2009. In 2007, EA bought Pandemic and BioWare. After the cancellation of Star Wars Battlefront 3 and Batman Dark Knight, things were not looking good for Pandemic. EA shut them down in 2009, but took control of all of their IP. EA tried to reboot Star Wars Battlefront in 2017, but it was absolutely slaughtered by fans for its loot box system that granted players healing after kills and lower cooldowns for abilities. This pay-to-win system is a common theme throughout EA's ventures. It deliberately made progression feel like a grind in order to push players towards buying loot boxes. EA responded to the hate on Reddit by saying that the intent was to provide a sense of pride and accomplishments for unlocking heroes. It is now the most downvoted comment in Reddit's history, with minus 668,000. This video isn't about Star Wars, it's about The Sims. It all started in 1987 when Maxis Software was founded by Will and Jeff Braun in an effort to publish their Commodore 64 game SimCity on the PC. While SimCity went on to become a blockbuster, their other sim games just wouldn't sell as much. EA acquisitioned them in 1997, which unbeknownst to them was a death sentence. The original Sims sold 11.2 million copies, making it one of the best-selling PC games of all time. After the failure of Spore in 2008, Wright left Maxis. More and more failures and controversies caused EA to shut down Maxis in 2015. This meant that EA finally had its claws on the much-loved Sims game. They could do what they wanted with it. The Sims is a much-loved franchise by many. It holds a special place in the heart of those that grew up playing it and those that create custom content for it. The Sims does not have a normal business layout. It all started with the Sims 1 release in 2000. It was quirky, funny and creative. You created your sim and sent them out into the big bad world. You could get a job, get married, have children and even pass away. It was a medium for players to exercise their creativity and allowed them to control what happened to their sim and how they interacted with those around them. What followed was 7 expansion packs and 2 deluxe editions. This started off the unique business format we now have come to accept. It is not unusual for a game to release DLC. What is unusual about The Sims is the quantity and price. We cannot solely blame EA for this model, as Maxis were still alive and kicking throughout the first 3 games, which in total released 26 expansion packs, 18 stuff packs, and over 1,000 items on the online store. This comes to way over £400 altogether. I didn't include The Sims 4 in these numbers because its numbers are truly ridiculous, so I had to do its own section. The Sims 4 has been out for 5 years now, which usually means it's time for a new game, but the developers have stated that they plan on releasing content for The Sims 4 for years to come, probably to make up for its lower numbers. The base game for The Sims 4 is $34.99, which is ridiculous in its own right, but I'll get back to that. So far, we have 7 expansion packs retailing for $34.99, which is the same as the base game, 7 game packs for $17.99, and a whopping 14 stuff packs for $9.99 each. If you bought all of the content and the base game right now, it would set you back £546, which is more than the first 3 combined, and they aren't even finished yet. DLC should be used to enhance your game, not used to get the full experience. But why did players accept this model? In each of the Sims games, the common theme is that the base game sucks. It's boring and feels like it's been stripped of content, which technically it has. This pushes players towards buying expansion after expansion just to beef it up a bit. When The Sims 4 was first released, it didn't have pools or toddler. That made it the worst base game out of the 4 titles. What is completely laughable is the fact that they want you to pay £40 for this garbage, even when they know it's not finished. What I don't understand is why they make so much content for the previous installment, then start again with a completely blank state. Be careful, EA, your greed is showing. The base game of The Sims 3 does feel more playable than that of The Sims 4, to be fair. What doesn't make sense to me is the fact that certain elements, like owning a business, swimming in the ocean, and seasons, are all DLC. These elements should be in the game already. Fair enough if you want expansions like Vampires or Jungle Adventure, they make sense to be optional DLC. but maybe not for £40. Moving on to what these expansions actually contain. Let's look at the latest release, Island Living. In this expansion, you get mermaids, a new world, swimming in the ocean, diving, and a new season. Sounds great, right? Let's break it down. With mermaids, there are no skill trees, like Vampire. Apart from a few different interactions, there's not actually much else to do as a mermaid. In the new world, you get 3 different sections with different households, but apart from the ocean and a few sparse beach areas, there isn't much to do or explore. Swimming in the ocean is just limited to Solani, the new world, which means you'll have to exclusively live there if you want to enjoy this feature, even though there is an ocean in Brindleton Bay. Diving is extremely boring. Your sim just dip down and disappear for a few hours, leaving you to stare at the ocean. In The Sims 3, we got to explore life under the sea and look around at the pretty landscape. This is sorely lacking in 4. The new weather system is just a monsoon that doesn't really do much except rain a lot. There's no additional buff or any change to the ocean when it occurs. This isn't an Island Living review, but a lack of content and just the feeling of being ripped off is very common in these £40 expansion packs. We cannot make a video about The Sims and not talk about My First Pets. This was titled the DLC for a DLC. After the Cats and Dogs expansion was released, EA released My First Pet Stuff Pack. Many fans got on to the fact that a lot of the content was similar to that of Cats and Dogs. It is not a long shot to assume that this content was kept from Cats and Dogs just to sell as the stuff pack for extra profit. Safe to say it has become the laughingstock of The Sims stuff packs. In my opinion, The Sims is too safe. There's no robbers anymore, there's no freak accidents, abductions are less frequent. Even weather that is supposed to kill you takes ages to do, and it's not something that you can really do unwillingly. The frequency for random sickness is far too low, and even then you only get a minor mood blip. The Sims did the opposite of evolve throughout the years, and I can only see it getting worse. It's just hard to look at this situation and not think we are being conned. EA are pushing less content out in a more expensive pack. It just doesn't make sense to me at all, but no one really seems to be complaining. I have a theory. The Sims community is one of the most intense communities I have seen. Sim gurus, developers, are worshipped, and anything said is immediately shot down, even by the gurus themselves. One situation that angered me to no end was fans who asked a certain guru about upcoming content or the end goal for The Sims. They were immediately shut down and responded to in a snarky and sometimes mean way by the guru themselves. Optimus made a video on how he thinks EA is ruining The Sim, and a popular Sims YouTuber made a video in response, immediately shutting him down.
Focus on the idea that giving more players more things to enjoy without ripping their wallets from them is going to make them happier. No, instead there is this new tradition forming in the series in which the games will have less content and more DLC.
It makes me think that the Sims community has Fight Club rules about controversies. And what's the first rule of Fight Club? The Sims has no competition. There's no huge life simulation game that even compares to the huge success of The Sims. This has allowed the Sims team to go on unchecked. With a couple more big name companies making better content, the EA are forced to change their ways and move in a different direction. Don't get me wrong, I love The Sims. I can spend hours and hours playing, and that's mainly down to custom content that is created. There is a lot of amazing creators and designers that make clothes, mods, and any other gameplay addition you can think of. It's safe to say that without modders, I would have left the game in the dust years ago. So yes, EA has ruined the Sims franchise. It has been taken over by greed, and unfortunately it shows no sign of slowing down. But what can we do about it? Unfortunately, not much. We can just grab a bag of popcorn and sit and watch as EA burns a decades-old franchise to the ground.
I feel like with every pack, they're just adding more and more ways to do the same things. Like, I could already change my Sims emotions a million different ways. Do I really need, like, this new drink or food or chair or something that makes my Sims kind of feel gloomy so that they can... I don't know. I don't know what the point of any of that is.
One day, EA's reign of terror will end, and I'll be the first to celebrate its demise. Going back to Matt Bilby's statement, I think you have to be very naive to look at what EA are doing and not think it's the epitome of greed. Maybe you think differently, and that's okay. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Side note, we have a Patreon now. Link will be down below if you want to subscribe. You will be really helping GameTable out.